Guys, it's me, Sawyer. Feeling pretty sleepy today. I've been up for the last 250 hours straight. It's basically been non-stop with school, doing homework and studying for tests, and hockey practice has been running late every single day for the last, couple weeks. And, over the weekend, I stayed up all night playing video games with my friends. And so, yeah, you could say, I'm pretty tired today. I feel like I could honestly just kind of fall asleep, but I'll try to. Oh, sorry guys. I think that cat nap kind of woke me up a little bit, so that's good. Hopefully I'll be refreshed for the rest of our time here, but thank you for joining in for confirmation yet again. My name is Sawyer. I'm happy to be here with you today. We are going to be diving into our next commandment, which is the third commandment tonight, which I'm pretty excited about. If you don't have your sheets, you could pause the video now and go print those out or grab them, and they'll be helpful for you as we have this conversation about the third commandment. As we've been working our way through the 10 Commandments, we've been talking about how it's important to remember the idea of law and gospel as we look at them. And we talked a couple weeks ago when we went through what is law and gospel. We talked about how the law points out our sin. It acts as a mirror. And when we look in that mirror, we see the ways that we aren't perfect. We see our blemishes, the way that we're imperfect, right? When we open up the Bible and we read the 10 Commandments or we read other sections of Scripture that have law in it, okay, it shows us the ways in which we are not perfect, just like a mirror does. It also kind of acts as when you're going bowling and you use the bumpers to keep you from going off the lane, right? That's kind of what the law does too. When we know what the law is, we know what our boundaries are as a Christian, as a Christ follower, how we're supposed to live, what we're supposed to do. And the law keeps us from going way off track from what how God would desire us to live. The gospel, on the other hand, sets us free. And we see, we're sinners, okay? The law has pointed out our sin, and we know that the wages of sin is death. The gospel points out that we've been set free, and that Jesus has come and he has saved us, and he offers salvation to those who believe in him. That's the gospel, and the law and gospel work hand in hand. One of the things that I love about God and his commands is that as our creator, he knows what's best for us. He created our bodies, he created our minds, he created everything about us, and so he knows what's best for us. And this commandment that we're going to look at today just reveals that. It reveals the fact that God just knows exactly what we need. And so I think it's going to be pretty cool. Today we're looking at the third commandment, which is found in Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, and it says this: "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy." Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. So there's a couple words in there that maybe we should kind of open up and talk about because they're not super familiar maybe. So the word Sabbath means to rest. Sabbath means to rest. So when it says the Sabbath day, it means the day of rest. It's also been called the Lord's Day, the day of rest. So when someone says, I need to Sabbath, they're saying, I need to rest. That's what Sabbath means. Holy means set apart or special. Okay, so maybe if you've ever won a trophy or something like that from a sport or something you're involved in, you put it set apart from all your other belongings up on this shelf. It's set apart. It's special. You don't have it just thrown all together with all of your other junk or in the, whatever. It's up on the shelf. It's set apart. It's special. And so that's kind of what the word holy means. We call it the Holy Bible because it's set apart. It's special from all other books, from all other words. The Holy Bible. Okay, it's special. It's set apart. So God is holy. God is holy. He is set apart. He is special from any other being. So that's kind of some areas that you might hear the word holy. So if we look back at what the verse says about remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, what we could say in translation of that, so it's easier to understand, is remember the day of rest by keeping it set apart or special from all the other days of the week. So that's kind of Sabbath and holy. That's what that means. Now, this idea of rest is actually pretty prevalent throughout the entire Bible. God talks about rest quite a bit. He talks about it a lot, in fact. We actually find the first message about rest right away in the book of Genesis when God is creating the heavens and the earth, okay? This happens on the seventh day. I'm going to read this from Genesis 2, 2 through 3. It says this: By By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So let's think about this for a second. The Almighty God, the God that is all powerful. He is strength, he is mighty, he is powerful. Okay, there is nothing that he can't do. He can do all things. That's how powerful and mighty he is. He rested. God himself rested on the seventh day of creation. Do you think he needed to? Do you think it was because he was wore out from all that creating? No. He did it because he wanted to show us how important it is to rest. And that even him in his all-powerfulness, his mighty self, even he rested on the seventh day, just as he's calling us to do, to rest. So do you think it's pretty important? Yes, it is. Think about this, okay? Man was created on the sixth day. God created Adam on the sixth day of creation. And then the seventh day was set apart for rest. So man's first day, first full day on this earth, on this planet of being in existence, was spent resting with God. Day number 1. He hadn't done anything yet, but God was calling him to rest. Pretty important. We see it right away in Scripture. Another place we see rest talked about is right after the command to rest is given. It says, remember the Sabbath day. So this is in Exodus 20. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Lord's, is a day to Sabbath to the Lord. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son, nor daughter, nor your maidservant, or manservant, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. So again, it's saying God in 6 days created everything in the universe, and on the seventh day he rested. So therefore you need to remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You should not work on the Sabbath day. No one in your family should work on the Sabbath day. Not even your animals or your servants should work on the Sabbath day, for it is the Lord's day. And we should be keeping it set apart, keeping it holy for resting. That's what that command goes on to say. And finally, we see it in Matthew 11, verse 28. Jesus talks about rest. Jesus talks about rest, and he promises to give rest to those that are weary and heavy laden. Okay, it says this in Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That's Jesus speaking. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That's a promise of Jesus. He wants to give rest to those that are tired and kind of beaten up from life. All right, he says, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, all of you who just have a lot going on, all of you who kind of have life just weighing down on you. All right, if you feel overwhelmed, if you're stressed, if you're anxious, come to me and I will give you rest. That's a promise of Jesus. He wants to give us rest. He thinks it's pretty important. So, those are a few areas where the Bible talks about rest. So now let's kind of talk about the Sabbath day in particular, this seventh day that God has kind of designated to be a holy day of rest. And he himself rested on the seventh day. All right, in the Old Testament, the Hebrews, okay, so the people that we read about all the time in the Old Testament, they kept Saturday as their day of rest, okay, because Saturday was viewed as the last day of the week, and that is the day that God rested, so therefore that was the day that they rested. But today, most Christians keep Sunday as the day of rest. It's the day we go to church. It's a day that lots of usually families spend time together. It's a set-apart day that's kind of different from the rest of the week, and that is because Jesus rose from the grave on the first day of the week, or Sunday, as we view it today. And so that's why we Christians typically celebrate or use the Sabbath on Sundays instead of Saturdays. And this change took place really on in church history as just a way of celebrating that the resurrection of Jesus, and that he was alive on Sunday, the first day of the week. So that's kind of why a lot of times we have church on Sunday and all those things, is because now most people use Sunday as their day of rest. which is pretty cool to think about it and be able to remember Jesus in that way. So here's the deal. If there's a law, then there's an ability for me to break that law. So let's kind of talk about that. What are some of the ways in which I can break this command that God has given me? Well, I break this command when I neglect to set apart a day for rest. When I am just working, and doing all these things, and not prioritizing a day of my week to rest. Or maybe if I'm procrastinating all these things all week long so that I am not able to set apart a day for rest, I've broken that command. I break this command when I value entertainment over rest. We're going to kind of talk about that. Is just sitting and watching TV or playing video games, is that truly what God means by resting? Or is that just entertainment? Do I ever just allow myself to sit and be with God? Or if every time I get a moment, am I just on my phone or playing video games or texting or Snapchat or Instagram or whatever, fill in the blank? Am I valuing entertainment over rest? I break this command when I value my worldly commitments over my time with the Lord. Am I just committing myself to all these different things, all these different activities and sports and clubs and whatever it is? Am I committing all of my time to these things so that I never have the opportunity to set aside a day of rest, a Sabbath day? I break that command. I break this command when I begin to view it as a burden rather than a gift. If all of a sudden this command becomes, oh, I've got to rest today instead of doing all this work. Which we do this. We'll talk about that a little bit more too, but we do that. We make this gift a burden when it's literally a command to rest. It's a gift. But sometimes our attitude doesn't reflect graciously this day that God has given us. Oh, I've got to go to church. Oh, I've got to spend time with my family. Oh, I've got to whatever, do this. Our hearts start to kind of manipulate it into something that's not supposed to be. It's a law, but it's really a gift because, again, God knows what's best for our bodies. He created us. And this isn't just some random law of, one day a week you got to rest. Like, where did that come from? No, God knows that it's important for our bodies. We need to stop and rest. We can't go a million miles an hour forever. God knows that our body needs to be rejuvenated and refreshed, and it needs to pause from all the busyness of life and rest. So he's given us this day. It's a gift, and we need to view it like that. But along with talking about the ways that we break this command, it's also important to remember what's the heart behind this. I kind of just talked about it a little bit, but the heart behind it, we can see it in the book of Mark, chapter 2, verse 27, where Jesus is talking about the Sabbath day. And the Sabbath had kind of become, it had become for the people not something that was a gift. It had kind of become a burden, and they were putting all these extra laws, enforcing them that God didn't really intend to happen. But Jesus says this. It says, then he said, this is Jesus speaking, he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. In other words, this is a gift for you. It's not you resting. It's not about you crossing your T's and dotting your I's and making sure that you've done all these things, but this was made for you. It's a gift that I've given to you to rest and to keep the Sabbath day. The Sabbath was made for man. This day of rest was made for man to enjoy and to use for their health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Not man for the Sabbath. You don't accomplish anything, or it's not about you being so great and remembering the Sabbath or anything like that. This is a gift for you. So, at the heart of this command is this. This law is intended to be a gift, like we just talked about. Okay, it's not supposed to be a burden. Time spent with God, resting, is life-giving. It's good. It's good for us. It's good for our souls. It's good for our minds. It's good for our bodies. Time spent with God is life-giving. Okay, God knows that our bodies need rest in order to survive. God is the ultimate source of rest, and it's by coming to him daily that we are able to find rest. And God knows that. He is the ultimate source of rest. And so it's just kind of funny because literally it's a law about not working. And yet somehow it's like we complain about, oh, I've got to go to work. Oh, I've got to go to school. And then we're given this day to rest. And it's like somehow we turn it into something to complain about or to push off or to say, oh, that's not really important. Oh, I'd rather do this. And it's like, man, we're just kind of neglecting our running away from this gift that God has given us, which is kind of silly when we think about it. But it's true. So the question is, what does it really mean to rest? What does it mean to Sabbath? Okay, and if you look at the back of your sheet here, there's some questions that you'll find that are going to kind of help us walk through this idea of what is restful. Because rest, when we're talking about Sabbath rest, it's more than just a nap, okay? It's not just going to church and then coming home and taking a nap and Sabbath rest. I am a big fan of my Sunday naps, by the way, but there's more to it than that, okay? God has created us all uniquely. This is what I love about God. He's created us all uniquely, and therefore, there are different activities or different things for each of us that we'll find to be restful. And we're going to kind of come up with a definition of what is rest, what is restful, by asking ourselves some of these questions. Because the truth is, there's some pretty awesome ways to Sabbath, to rest, to spend time with God, which is at the heart of this command. Setting aside a day to be with the Lord and to spend time with him and to allow him, coming to Jesus, all of us who are weary and heavy laden, so that he can give us rest. So let's talk about this. When we're thinking about things in our lives that maybe are restful, while I'm doing this activity, am I distracted and unable to focus on God while doing this? What are the things in your life, activities that you enjoy, that maybe you're not really able to focus on God while you do? Maybe it's watching TV or a movie, or maybe it's playing video games. Those things tend to not allow a lot of opportunity for you to focus on God because your mind is so focused on something else. While I'm doing this activity, do I walk away from it feeling encouraged or frustrated? Okay? Maybe some of you are in a sport and you love your sport and it's so much fun for you to be involved in it. But at the end of the day, if you leave practice and it didn't go very well, you're frustrated, not encouraged. Or me, sometimes I like to do little projects around the house and I think, oh, this is going to be so restful just to go work out in my garage for a while. But I actually leave being all frustrated because the project didn't go well. It wasn't restful. I'm not encouraged by it. I left kind of frustrated. Maybe it's the same with video games. Do you ever get angry playing video games? Right? It's not restful. It leaves you being just frustrated. Am I able to listen and pray while doing this activity? That's a big part of Sabbath rest, is listening to God, being present with him in prayer. Prayer and thanksgiving, telling him the things that you're thankful for, and bringing your requests to God and just listening, pausing. Are you able to do that during your activity? Think about something like listening to uplifting Christian music. Yeah, you're able to pray. You're able to listen and reflect on God while doing that. That's a super restful activity. Does this involve mindless entertainment or contemplative thought? All right, is my mind just paused while I'm watching TV? Or am I able to focus and contemplate and think about God and the way that he's working in my life? Is this beneficial to my physical, mental, and emotional health? Is this beneficial to my health? God created the Sabbath to be beneficial for me. And so if I'm spending it in a way that's not healthy, then it's not Sabbath. Is it a God-honoring activity? Or is it messing around with my friends doing something, whatever, that maybe God wouldn't appreciate? Or maybe it's breaking another one of his commands. Is it God-honoring? Is this activity different from how I spend most of my time? This is a big one for me. I love to read, but when I was in college, I had to read for school all the time. It's how I spent a majority of my time, was reading. So you know it wasn't really that restful for me when I was in college? Reading. Even though normally it's actually a very great way for me to spend Sabbath rest, because I can spend time with God. I can read a book. I can read my Bible. I can read a book about God and about who he is. And it causes me to think about him and to ask him questions and to invite him into my life. But when I was in college, reading wasn't that relaxing because it's how I spent all my time. But you know what was super restful when I was in college? Going home to Wisconsin, where I'm from, going to my mom's farm and splitting wood for her. It was this strenuous activity that's actually causes a lot of work to split log after log. And yet it was so refreshing for me. It was so encouraging for me because it was different from anything else I was doing when I was at school. It was so different from reading a book. It was so different from sitting in class. It was getting to use my body to work and to do physical labor. And so you know what? It was a God-honoring activity because it was using the muscles, the strength that God had given me to bless somebody else, to bless my mom. All right? It was beneficial to my physical, mental, and emotional health. Physically, I was getting my heart rate going. Mentally, I was able just to kind of put my issues or my stress aside at school and just focus on splitting these logs. And my emotional health, again, it was just refreshing to be doing something different than how I spend most of my time. Does that activity involve mindless entertainment or contemplative thought? While I was splitting wood, I was able to think about God, think about Jesus and the work that he's done in my life and how thankful I am for him. And was I able to listen and pray while splitting wood? You bet. You bet I was. I totally was. Did I walk away from it feeling encouraged or frustrated? I walked away feeling so encouraged. So encouraged. It was so encouraging for me. Was I distracted and unable to focus on God while doing that? No, I wasn't. I was able to focus on him. Even while I was splitting this wood, I could focus on God because it cleared my mind from all of these other stressful things in my life. And I was just able to focus on God. So maybe there's something like that in your life. You know, maybe you play hockey. And you love to skate. You love to skate around the rink and play hockey. But maybe practice with your teammates, maybe that's not what's restful because you're not able to focus on God. You're not able to listen and pray. It's the same, exactly how you spend most of your time. But maybe there's an ice rink in your neighborhood that on a Sunday afternoon you could go to by yourself or with your family and just skate around for a while. And in that, you're able to just skate around and focus on God. You're doing something that's beneficial to your physical, mental, emotional health. It's a God-honoring activity. It's a little different than how you spend most of your time. You're able to listen and pray and think about God while you're doing it. And it's super refreshing and rejuvenating and restful. I encourage you to think about your life. And what are some things that you could do to spend this Sabbath rest? Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's running. Maybe it's splitting wood. Maybe it's having a cup of hot cocoa and sitting out on your porch or in your living room and reading your Bible for a while. Maybe it's journaling. Right? How has God designed you and designed your mind and your body to find rest? Because he's made us all different. So I'd encourage you to think about that as you go into small groups or maybe talk about it with your family. What are some of the things that maybe you do in your life that are restful? Or could be used as an opportunity to spend time with God? Or what are some of the things that you do that maybe you shouldn't use as rest? Maybe it's just entertainment, but it's not truly Sabbath rest. I'd encourage you to think about that. And I want you to remember, it's not about cheating the system. All right? It's not about saying like, oh yeah, it's totally refreshing and restful for me to play video games with my friends. Yeah, right? I totally think that. I want you to really think about, is that true for you? Is that true? Because it's not about cheating the system and being able to like spend time doing things that actually aren't restful, but being like, yeah, wink wink, it actually is restful when you know it's not. It's not about cheating the system. It's about spending time with your Father in heaven and allowing him to take care of you. So I'd encourage you to think about that as we discuss this lesson and as you kind of ponder and think about the Third Commandment, which is to keep the Sabbath day holy. So, thank you all for listening, and I hope you have an excellent rest of your evening.